For her birthday, I took my girl Katie to Arizona so that we could stay with some friends of her and spend a few weeks partying and getting crazy and stuff before heading back to school for the year. We drove up in my dad's car. It's a really old Ford make, and it's pretty beat up. The road there was bumpy and long. Our relationship seemed at its strongest on the road. We were really in love. That was the first time I realized that I had never truly been in love before. And we were about halfway there when we realized that we were going to run out of gas long before the nearest petrol pump. Katie's head was out the window, sunglasses on, and the blistering heat outside. Nothing but the wild desert landscape to be seen in all directions. But we became frantic. We hadn't seen another car on the road in almost an hour. What if we broke down out here in the middle of the desert with no food or water, with no one out to find us? I sped up slightly, driven by these fears. It was then that we came across a gas station, smack bang in the middle of nowhere, in dry, empty nowhere. It was an old, worn-down servo. Long yellow grass blew in the breeze beneath it. Outside were two rusted gas pumps. At first, we didn't know if it was occupied. It seemed so lifeless. But as we pulled up and saw the petrol stains on the dirt, we were convinced otherwise. Katie started refilling the car, and I went inside to pay and grab something to eat on the road. When I first went to open the door, it jammed. This perturbed me, so I looked up at the sign to check and was reassured that the store was open, according to the torn sign that hung in between the dull yellow curtains at the door window. I pushed harder and harder. With effort, got into the shop. Inside, it was totally abandoned and left to ruin. Complete aisles lay on the ground. The fridges were smashed and glass coated the floor. Despite the brightness outside, the interior of the gas station was dark and bitterly cold. Then came from behind me this quiet weeping, like a child's. I felt my heart race. It was coming from the back room. I stepped over the smashed glass and twisted metal remnants on the floor, over where the patches of grass had grown through. I ran my hand along the wall and felt the crisscross of ivy beneath my fingers. It was overgrown. There came the crying again, and now I was facing the backroom door. It was directly in front of me. I pushed the door open, and it creaked with rust in its joints. Inside, there lay several wooden steps into the basement. The drip-drop of water alerted me to the fact that the basement was flooded. The water was up to my knees. Again, there came the crying. "Hello? Is anyone there?" The smell was horrible, and cold water eventually got to me. "Hello? What's wrong?" I finally reached the corner. Still dark, I had to bend down to avoid the pipes, which leaked down my back and trickled down my spine. "Why are you down here?" For about half an hour, I could barely tell her what happened in the store. She listened and gave me a look of sheer horror when I finally gave in and told her everything. She pulled the car to the side of the road and began to cry herself. "I saw something while you were gone. We had nowhere to stay. We had not traveled nearly as much as we'd hoped that day. We just drove up into a clearing a little ways up. And after a while, I tried to reassure her that we were okay. I calmed her down, put my arms around her, and we started to kiss. I moved to get closer to her when... we sped off back down onto the road. A few minutes after we had been driving forward, we passed the gas station. The gas station was at least a half an hour away in the opposite direction. Katie was in such hysterics, she found it hard to keep driving. We stopped the car in the middle of the desolate road. I decided we should switch seats so that I could drive. And as soon as I was outside, the foul stench of the basement overwhelmed me. I got into the driver's seat as quickly as possible. We drove off again, not talking. Katie whimpered and I silently prayed. And then we passed the gas station again. As we forced ourselves on, we both became aware of a soft, barely audible weeping in the back seat. Neither of us dared turn around. Ignore it. All through the night, Katie whimpered. When we passed the gas station twice more, the people were closer every time. The finest slither of red light had begun to settle on the horizon. Katie had been silent, face concealed under her hands for some time. I decided to check the time, so I turned on the radio. At first, there was only static. I fiddled with the dial, trying to change the station. In between static, I found only one audible channel. It had a high-pitched buzz in the background. A man was muttering names and numbers under his breath.
29. Lucy. 30. Adam. 31. Katie.
I switched back to static. I knew which name was next. When we got to Katie's friend's house, it was morning. Everywhere had the smell of rain on it. Her friends weren't home. As soon as we were inside, I realized while she had been silent, she was biting on her lip. She grabbed the newspaper and some masking tape off the table and began blocking out the windows. After the night's events, I didn't know whether I would be insane to join her or to stop her. I simply watched. She covered the windows, jammed the door, and turned the lights off. It's been 3 whole days now. I haven't seen Katie at all today. She spends her time in the closet crying. The phone rings often. A voice. My mother's, I believe, whispering under its breath. I can only catch snippets of what it says.
Come back. You're always welcome to come back.
Sometimes in the background I hear quiet chuckling. I hear the shower running and will walk in to find nothing. Nothing at all. Then, when I'm in the bathroom, I hear the television flick back on. It always goes to the face. I've called the police twice. All I get is this whispering woman's voice. I called Katie's friends too, just as fruitless. There are knocks through the newspaper on the other side of the window. I can see their hands slam against the glass and slide down. They do this for hours on end sometimes. At night we hear screaming from the guest room. I boarded it up. Sometimes I find tiny pieces of glass on the ground. A leak sprang up about a day ago in my room downstairs. Black spots of mold have appeared on the walls. There's a smell throughout the house seeping in from my room. The odor of decay. I pray. I pray hopelessly, and I swear to God, I wish that I had never gotten out of that car.